India Today Group's chairman Arun Puri is addressing the Global Roundtable. Let's cross live.
Time to take stock of what has been achieved and what remains to be done. Sadly, SAARC's track record has been somewhat dismal compared to other groupings. But the fact that it continues to exist, I think, is a cause for celebration. Yet, when you're at a forum like this, we should put our cynicism aside, even if it's just for a day. Who knew India would have a single-party, full-majority government in 2014? It happened just like the democratic revolution, continuing democratic revolution in Nepal. The completion of a full term by an elected government in Pakistan, followed by a smooth democratic transfer of power. The defeat of LTTE in Sri Lanka and subsequent efforts to devolve power to the Tamil population. Gradual transformation to democracy in Bhutan, and the great experiment in Afghanistan. The evolution of democracy in the region is its greatest opportunity, reflecting aspirations and a desire to grow. So is this a new political moment to seize? I hope our roundtable will provide some answers. I'm also very grateful to the President of Afghanistan, His Excellency Ashraf Ghani Ahmadzai, for consenting to be the keynote speaker of this conclave. You will hear him later this afternoon. With the imminent withdrawal of foreign troops, he has to shepherd his country through another difficult but yet necessary transition. And so the question, why are we here? And why is India today interested in leading the charge in promoting this discussion in South Asia on the kind of region that we want to be? The answer is simple. South Asia is our home, and like in our homes, we need to be good neighbors. This roundtable is our little contribution to bring about a better understanding of each other. Kathmandu is an appropriate place to reach out to each other, as it seems to have the least contentious issues with its neighbors. It helps to know what our problems are. For several of us, terrorism tops the list. For others, it's poverty or lack of good governance, or perhaps even something as fundamental as democracy and as the rule of law. The truth is that despite the passage of the decades, many of us have remained victims of ancient animosities, hidebound bureaucracies, as well as a political class that is unwilling to think out of the box on a sustained basis. So when Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi invited all the heads of SAARC to the swearing in May this year, and all these leaders responded so generously by attending, there was hope for new beginnings. As is the case quite often, only a few months later, the most important relationship in the region, the India-Pakistan one, went into a dizzying tailspin. Therefore, it is no surprise that we begin our roundtable with a session on India-Pakistan, exploring possibilities of friendship at a time when both countries are going through a no-talk phase. I think between Nalin Kohli, national spokesperson of the BJP, Mr. Manish Tiwari, former Minister of Information and Broadcasting of India, and Hina Ramani Kar, former Foreign Minister of Pakistan, we have the relevant cross-section of views well covered. We often hear other South Asian countries complain how the Indo-Pak conflict has held up and even pushed back the SAARC project, which is why this bilateral conversation is not only important, but tests the larger sense of responsibility of both these preeminent powers of the region. Terrorism, for example, which has been one of our most contentious issues between several countries, has seen some progress. In the past few months, Indian agencies uncovered anti-Bangladesh terror modules mushrooming on Indian soil with the intent of allegedly carrying out a series of explosions across Bangladesh. Interagency cooperation between both countries was critical in neutralizing this terror venture early in the day. There have been examples of such cooperation between India and Nepal, which is how key Indian Mujahideen terrorists were caught, and also between India and Bhutan to target bases of northeast insurgent outfits. Has the time come to upgrade this into a meaningful regional platform of seamless and real-time cooperation? We have a discussion structured around this theme, and for once, there will be a bag full of examples to add meat to a theme that is often, like many South Asian projects, been dubbed a non-starter. The truth is that for the sake of our future generations, each country in the SAARC space must insulate the vicious politics that so often define us and refocus our energies on improving the lot of our people. For example, can the rivers that begin in Nepal and flow down to the lower riparian states, India, be transformed from their current states of flooding and destruction to the production of hydroelectricity? Our session on economic cooperation under SAFTA may discuss these issues because common and interloping regional infrastructure creates a more permanent and possibly an irreversible basis for economic cooperation of the kind one can see in the European Union or, for that matter, in ASEAN. As of now, however, the picture is discouraging, given that just about 5% of the formal trade and the member countries is inter-regional in nature. Similarly, can we insulate India-Pakistan people's relationship from political issues like Kashmir and terrorism? Should we be able to trade and travel between Afghanistan, Pakistan and India, enabling our people, in the words of several of our former prime ministers, to have breakfast in Delhi, lunch in Lahore and dinner in Kabul? For a region of approximately 1.6 billion people, we're probably the least integrated on any socio-economic indicator in spite of a shared history of colonial rule. I would like to invoke here the metaphor of the Grand Trunk Road, built in the 1500s by an Afghan general who hailed from North India from Jaunpur and briefly ruled over Delhi, who built a road that stretches from the present-day Pakistan to the eastern flank of his empire to Kolkata. As the largest country in the region, India's responsibility towards South Asia is necessarily also the greatest. But can we invoke this overarching metaphor of the great road that spans the region, crossing several frontiers, remaining a lifeline of trade and commerce, as well as the greatest cultures, and opening up, if you like, a highway of the mind? What better way to do this than to bring some of the most respected political leaders of South Asia together over the best of this day, in the hope that we will speak frankly about all the issues, including those that divide us. But I think we also owe it to ourselves to listen with an open mind to what the other person across the table on the other side has to say. In this listening will lie the seeds of change. I would like to leave you with this thought. We are the children of the great Indus Valley civilization. We can be the largest and the most prosperous grouping in the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. For the first session, may I now call on stage Rahul Kanwal, the moderator of the session, Managing Editor, TV Today Group. Can India and Pakistan be friends? The panelists are Nalin Kohli, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Manish Tiwari, former Information and Broadcasting Minister, and Hina Rabbani Khar, Pakistan's former Foreign Minister. Rahul Kanwal, please.
Hello and welcome. One of the biggest obstacles holding back SAARC from taking off has been the problem in the relationship between India and Pakistan. Can India and Pakistan truly be friends, or are we condemned to be enemies forever? For the first session here at the India Today Global Roundtable in Kathmandu, I'd like to introduce you to our guests this morning, beginning with the former Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Hina Rabbani Khar. Welcome, great to have you with us. Manish Tiwari, former Information and Broadcasting Minister in the UPA government. Also with us, one of the rising stars of the Bharatiya Janata Party, National Spokesperson Nalin Kohli. I want to begin by getting straight to the crux of where we stand this morning. Nalin, the BJP is being accused of being unreasonable by drawing a new red line that didn't exist earlier, in a relationship where red lines haven't been allowed to exist previously. Is Prime Minister Modi and the new BJP government genuinely interested in peace with Pakistan, Or are you deliberately and with an eye on the elections forcing a militant, aggressive stand when it comes to our most important neighbor? Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it from Nalin Kohli, please.
Thank you, Rahul. The BJP has been accused of many things for a long time, so accusations are not really very new to us. Secondly, I think Mr. Puri, in his opening address, did lay out many things comprehensively and touched upon something which is relevant, that while there was a lovely opportunity when Prime Minister Modi did invite the leaders of the SAARC region, and certainly Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif graciously accepted that, there was an opportunity, we know what has happened thereafter, to link it just with political electoral outcome would be a tide unfair. Because national policy does not need to be, and very rarely, at least on the foreign affairs front, is directly linked to electoral results and how we would contest our elections. Can India and Pakistan be friends? Well, we certainly know we aren't friends in the traditional sense as yet. That doesn't mean that we can't be. We do share a lot in common, and we've spoken about that at various forums. I'll keep this brief, but I'll keep it also frank. From our perspective, and since I'm not in government, so I can speak my mind a little more freely. From our perspective, there are too many conflicting and contradictions within Pakistan. It almost appears that, it is combustible internally. And these conflicting centers of power almost require a deflection from the internal issues towards looking at India with a slightly more strident view. And that almost gets fixated to the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. So that's almost like the fixed agenda. Now, this past strategy has not taken us anywhere significantly ahead. There's no doubt that there is a severe sense of restrictions in how we look at achieving friendship between our two countries at a people-to-people level. And there are many votaries within this room who have eminently spoken about it, even on various fora like this. That yes, there exists a great constituency for peace, there's a great affinity for peace. There is also a constituency in both countries, and perhaps many of them are sitting here. But in our assessment, or at least in my personal assessment, acknowledgement and acceptance of what are the internal situations within Pakistan is a necessary first step forward, because deflection will get us nowhere, and it'll only take us farther from the truth. Until we get to this in terms of approaching it honestly, we will not be able to bridge the trust deficit, which is enormous. There is a trust deficit. Until there is trust, there can be no meaningful relationship. A relationship has to be built on the foundation of trust. Otherwise, we merely exist. We may call it a relationship, but we won't necessarily have one. And that's how I would see it. I think in the government that we have, since one of the reasons being it's a full majority government, it's not hampered by any coalition restrictions. In the leadership of Mr. Modi, there is almost a fast-paced approach towards many things. There's clarity, there's direction, there's movement further. Perhaps because India and India's aspirations are impatient, that they want to see those aspirations fly. I'm sure such a situation exists in many countries. So therefore, it's not a business-like usual approach. And that's where perhaps when you say that red lines don't exist, the red lines have come forward. It's a frank acknowledgement of what are our sensibilities and our sensitivities.
Thank you, Nalin. You were as frank as you promised to be, and you're justifying the red lines. I want to listen to what Ms. Khar says, but Nalin makes a very important point, which is that Pakistan has a fixed agenda on Jammu and Kashmir. The moment you say India, Pakistan, you add the word Kashmir, there's so much more our countries can achieve in commerce, trade, travel. Why then do we begin with the most contentious issue? Why not begin elsewhere and then gradually, as trust builds, move towards the problem areas?
Sure. Rahul, thank you for this. And, I think the fact that this global roundtable is taking place is probably the only positive that we see which has emerged from SAARC becoming an entity. Because typically when you see, as foreign ministers, when you travel the globe, for instance, around the UN General Assembly, you have many intra-country meetings. However, for instance, I would have loved to see more regional meetings around SAARC also. Now, I would just like to go back a few years. As we were holding the previous summit in Adu, Maldives, just a few years back, about 2 years back, and I remember, a flux of Indian journalists asking me, what do you see as the future of SAARC and where do you want SAARC to go? And of course, every time the word SAARC comes, India-Pakistan relations and them holding the entire SAARC region hostage is a headline rather than a footnote. Now, when they asked me this question, I said, I hope for a day that there will be a SAARC conference anywhere in the region when the headline will be what SAARC has achieved rather than how or what the meetings between the Prime Minister of India and Pakistan will achieve. Now, 2 years from then, it seems that instead of going forward, we have actually come back to a point where the headlines cannot even be what the two Prime Ministers will discuss, because guess what? They're not even meeting. So if he thinks that this is a way forward, I would, I would choose to be a utopian, and we can all be utopians. I think many people in this room are utopians, Mr. Iyer obviously being one of them, but I would not choose to be delusional, okay? And I think all of us cannot afford to be delusional when it comes to important, hostile, moving towards or hoping to be friendly relations. Now, I'll come to, first of all, compliment Mr. Puri on laying down what SAARC potentially could achieve and what it hasn't been. And I think we have to be very realistic when we talk about where SAARC is today. SAARC is nowhere today. SAARC is one of the least integrated regions in the world. Our intra-trade with each other almost does not exist. In order to fly to Kathmandu, which is about 1,000 miles, aeronautical miles from Lahore, I have to go all the way to Doha, do a 4-hour journey, come back with a 4-hour journey. So that's the connectivity of SAARC, and I don't think any other region is as less connective as SAARC is. Now, going to the specifics, there was great hope which had emerged out of a complete negative perception of Prime Minister Modi in Pakistan. We all know that the Gujarat crisis, or whatever you may want to call it, had an overhang over Prime Minister Modi's reputation before he became Prime Minister. However, when he came with a surging 2/3 majority, I think Pakistan did what any country or any state, what smart statesmanship would require for you to do, is to put the past behind and look at the opportunity that stares you in the face. And despite opposition from some channels, certainly not the Pakistan People's Party, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif took the opportunity when it was presented to him to come to the SAARC, to his swearing-in ceremony. And from there, I remember I was in New Delhi at that time, and I was asked the question by Karan Thapar in an interview that, what do you see? And there are lots of people who are against Modi. And I said, I will stand out and say that I have great hope from Prime Minister Modi, because he comes as a strong leader with 2/3 majority, and I would hope that this would encourage him to write his name in history as the game changer, not as somebody who evokes or strokes the same sentiments of hatred, of animosity, of antagonistic behavior. Now, unfortunately, that opportunity only lasted not even a few months, but maybe a few weeks. And, the gentleman on my left is not representing the government. I am neither representing the government nor the spokesperson of the leading party. So I can be even more frank when I talk about Pakistan-India relations. Red lines are important, and red lines have to be respected. When you want to move forward, you have to accept realistically what those red lines are. But if you're going to carve out brand new red lines, which did not exist before, in the hope of dialogue, then basically you're sending a very simple and a straightforward message. And I tell you, it's very interesting that we say over here that Pakistan is fixated on Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan considers, again, Pakistan will not be delusional, Pakistan considers the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, as has been considered by both the states and recognized in the form of the Council dialogue, in the form of the resumed dialogue, in the form of the many wars, that it is an issue. If it wasn't an issue, we would not be fighting wars over it. So please do not expect us to be delusional about what the realities are. We have to accept the realities and carve our way out through the difficult waters or the troubled waters. Now, how does Pakistan do that? Pakistan does that by foregoing a stance that it had taken many, many years back, right? Since 1965, there was an unsaid rule in Pakistan that there will be no forward movement in Pakistan until and unless this issue of Jammu and Kashmir was solved, was resolved. Now, when we came in government, we said we cannot start by fixating ourselves on solving the most contested issue and say that, yes, there's no trust, the atmospherics are terrible, but we will not do anything with India until the issue of Jammu and Kashmir is solved. So we said, let's improve the environment around us. And therefore, Pakistan took a stand and decided that on trade, Pakistan will move forward. Now, this was since 1965, Pakistan had decided that trade, there will be no movement on trade until. So if you call this fixation, I look at it in a very, very different light. Now, despite that, of course, there is a general feeling in Pakistan today, and I will not, miss any frank words in saying that it has been a one-way traffic, that Pakistan has been sending gestures upon gestures upon gestures. And India's fixation has been on issues which are issues to both the countries. So please do not call terrorism. You actually send, almost as if reality has not dawned upon many people when they say terrorism is an issue for India. If terrorism is an issue for India, I see it to be a bigger issue for Pakistan. And as India as a state has lost or missed many opportunities to see the sea change in Pakistan. One sea change was when my government was in power, when there was broad consensus within the political parties that we have to move ahead with India. The other sea change came just recently. And this has been a consistent trend in Pakistan. Since the democratic governments have taken power in Pakistan, we have fought very, very strongly against terrorism within Pakistani boundaries. You see the full-scale operation in North Waziristan, a military operation in North Waziristan, where our soldiers are losing lives. So for you to turn around after we lose 40,000 civilians and soldiers to the scourge of terrorism and say terrorism is an issue for India and not for Pakistan, it is, as I said, it is being unrealistic and unappreciative of the realities on the ground. Terrorism is an issue for all of South Asia, and this is certainly a very big issue for Pakistan. So we have to really decide. I will just end this line of comments by saying, I used to call myself an indefatigable optimist when it comes to Pakistan-India relations. And I like to believe that as foreign minister, I put that at the center of what we wanted to achieve as the most important relationship. However, 2 years, 3 years, maximum 3.5 years from then, I must say that I'm becoming a realist. And unfortunately, it's like growing up and realizing that it is impossible to do. And why is it impossible to do? Because the statesmen and people who call themselves leaders believe that the opportunity cost of letting go of this animosity and hatred and this identity that we have carved out for ourselves and our nations as one that is antagonistic to each other, the opportunity cost of letting that go is not good enough. I know that that has happened in Pakistan. Pakistan people believe that it is good enough, the opportunity cost of letting go of that antagonistic relationship is higher than holding on to it. Unfortunately, the BJP government has disappointed all of us by ensuring that the same stroke of hatred is used to do a vote count, to get more votes. And till this is able to change, till the leaders believe that it is more useful for their state, for their nation, to go ahead and, let's face it, you may talk about India, achieving new vistas, etc. I was surprised recently, the 3 countries in the world which are the highest in terms of child mortality still have India and Pakistan as 2 of them.
Thank you, ma'am.